Well, hi everyone. Today I'm with Sarah McCullough, and she is a counselor and a music therapist. So, welcome, Sarah. So glad you're here. So, Sarah, we've got 10 more minutes. What's one thing that you would love for the world to know?
Important to remember being a music therapist that music is one of those really fun, simple things and is very universal across ages, across diversities, across cultures, but also becomes a natural motivator.
Yeah.
So, this idea as a music therapist, I like to kind of share music with others, but also in the idea of like music can be used by non musicians and by people that aren't music therapists. It goes across opportunities.
Nice. I love it. I think that makes sense. So tell me, how did you discover this?
I kind of started dabbling in music from a rather younger age. My mom grew up in the creative arts and singing. And so that was kind of naturally passed through into my childhood of
Yeah.
creating and singing, and then got involved in band. And that grew into this idea of music as a staple. So I don't want to walk away from it. I want that to be a part of what I do. So it's kind of, I guess, kind of grew with me as I grew. And I decided I want to go into a helping field. And music therapy was where I started to get my feet wet.
Hmm. So cool. And so, what's the first step someone would take?
Think in the idea of like utilizing more music either in your day-to-day life or in the therapy realm, my mind just says just play, have fun, right? Like get out there, tap, hum, sing, create, like let some of those defenses down that we get in our head sometimes that says, oh, I can't do this, or I have to be trained to do this as a musician. Learn to trust that instinct, and if the song is there, create it, go with
Yeah.
it.
Oh, so cool. And what's a common obstacle that people face?
I think in the world of creativity and music in general, the biggest obstacle is that like that little brain or the little voice inside your brain that says, I can't do this, and starts to question, like, am I doing it right? Is this actually pretty? Can I do this? So I think the biggest obstacle really becomes that confidence and that concern for where's the right note, what's the right rhythm.
Yeah.
And I think a willingness to just kind of put yourself out there gets you over that obstacle, gets you to explore that obstacle instead of just sitting down and being defeated by it.
Nice. And so, how do I know if I'm doing it right?
At the end of the day, when it comes to music, I think for me, it becomes there's not a right or wrong. I always explain to my clients when I'm introducing music as like, I'd love to do this with you today if you're comfortable, of the right and the wrong is the do and the don't, and not necessarily this is the right note, this is the right rhythm, but doing and trying is right and refusing is the wrong. Being
Yeah.
so afraid that you're held back is more of, if we had to table, a wrong. So I always just kind of like encourage try it. And I think music is one of those fun things that kind of gives you feedback as you're in the music of like, this feels right in my body, or maybe it feels right for your client and you see that body response of excitement or brightening. So listen to that feedback from your own body, from your clients, and track the mood that's going on in the room. I definitely think I've noticed with myself, at least, when music is doing what I like it to do, my mood's elevating. I'm up here, I'm in a better place. Versus if it's a challenging day, maybe I'm a little more down here. So
Yeah.
let music guide and see where it goes.
My gosh, that's so good because music is such an expressive. Yeah, it's so like deeper in the brain. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so like it reminds me so much of like how people feel about art. Like, well, I'm
Yeah.
not an artist, so you find that a lot.
Yeah, I definitely get a lot of like, but I don't know how to play an instrument, so
Yeah,
I can't do music therapy with you. And I'm like, yes, you can. In the idea of it's not created for musicians, it's not created for musically trained people.
right.
I often like to grab like drums. I keep drums in my space.
Yes.
Or going into body percussion with tapping and snapping. And I will tell people, or if you're willing to hit something, then we're probably set.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So good.
So
It makes me think of like you're saying like, if there's a flow with it, like just flow with it. And I something I like to do a lot in play therapy is to sort of use the drums as like to start to get that biofeedback. Like, is it like I like to go like, I'll say, should we play it like slow, medium, or fast? So do you use that kind of thing, like rhythm and stuff?
Yeah, I definitely think I use a lot of rhythm, exploring, even like teaching where's the heart rate, where do you find your breath rate,
Yeah.
like, and then connecting that into let's recreate it on the drum or let's tap it in our body. It definitely is there and is a fun thing that I think any developmental stage can climb into of like, oh, there is my heart, or oh, there's my belly breath. I noticed that,
Yeah.
that feedback is easy to find.
And I think it's so interesting you're saying like the only way to get it wrong is to not do it. Like any way that you do it is okay. And it's so interesting because it's like when we have our spaces, like you have such a beautiful space, and it's like this is a sacred space. You can relax here.
Yes.
And maybe people bring in whatever sort of judgment they have, but it's just from the outside, right? And like so this like brightening up that you see, do you see that in all ages?
So yeah, I think sometimes the brightening up maybe is a drop of tension more in
Yeah.
adults instead of this like tight, oh my God, I'm so stressed today. Like you see that start to open up. But I definitely think in my kids, it's that like upper level, I'm excited, I'm ready to go
Yeah.
energy that comes out.
And I use music a lot. Like I listen to music in my regular life. Is that also part of music therapy?
Yes, it can be creating your own, recreating, improvising, or listening to something.
Yeah.
I know I like to use that as a door opener with my teenagers of
Yes.
what song resonated with you this week, and let's listen to it. Now, why? Help me understand the
Oh my
connection.
gosh. I know when a kid will play a song for me, it's such a window
Yes,
into their soul for the moment. It's so sweet.
yes, absolutely. It's a really, really, I think, easy way to kind of slide in to better learn about
Yeah.
them and what's going on, what's important, and what they're
Yeah.
connecting with.
Yeah, totally. There's two things that reminds me of like sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't love a bunch of pop music, but if my child's into it, I'll be like, yeah, I'll listen to it with them, especially like my child at home. But then also I read that like one of the ways that music helps relieve stress is that like if there's like a hard beat or like things like this. And a therapist friend of mine told me about her son had gotten really bad news about an injury. He was a high schooler and got in the car and he put this like kind of music with bad words and a rhythm she didn't like, but she just sat back for a second and then he was able to just start crying. And she's like, I
Right.
didn't like step in and was like, we don't listen to this, da 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 da. So that kind of thing. So just different styles, like where you're at in your life. What about here's something that I do a lot. I read this in some synergetic play therapy tools. I listen to Mozart to concentrate. Have you ever heard about that?
Yes, I feel like there's been more and more studies lately tying classical music to
Yes.
concentration.
Yeah.
I always I always kind of sit back and go, I think everybody has different preferences of
Yeah.
styles and approaches.
Yeah.
But I know for me personally, when I was studying for my master's degree in
Yeah.
counseling, I would put on instrumental like movie music. So think John Williams. And
Yes.
I couldn't, if I was going to study, if I was going to write a paper, that had to be on. That was my go-to, was what instrumental movie music am I in the mood for today? And we
Yes.
flow through all of the good stuff, at least in my mind.
No,
So
that's great.
there's a huge tie between instrumental classical music
Yes.
and concentration focus.
Yes. Yes. I think for me, I've tried it with different ones like Bach or whatever, but it's really Mozart. Like I will not even notice it's on and really get through what I need to do. So
Right.
really, I like to encourage people to do that. I think people don't know like how much it can influence you.
That's where I'm like, back to that idea, music is such a natural motivator,
Yes.
of like we don't always realize, but you have the right tune on and all of a sudden you're there, you're locked in. The other thing that kind of popped in my head after that comment was this idea I work with on mostly with my teens, but I think it can be used across a little bit of music. I like using playlists. You're talking about the teen that had the rough day and he started really big and heavy. I will teach my clients, how do we shape that playlist to bring you to a place where you want to land instead of getting stuck of I listened to my 10 angry songs and punched a wall until
Yes.
I hurt
Ooh,
myself. Let's move.
right.
Even if it's a little move, let's move.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I'm going to use that for sure. It reminds me of probably 10 years ago, my best friend from college made me a mix CD. That's probably the last time I got one of those, but I know
Yep.
that she curated it with like for a flow. I'm sure,
Yeah.
but now that I think back, like it was that's such a sweet gift, and to help kids do that and families. Like if you want to have dinner, like how to
Right.
get everybody there. Oh my gosh, so great. Well, that's our time, Sarah. Thank you so much. I'm going to
Yes.
share all your info in the link in case people want to get a hold of you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks.